Lions fans, here's another update. And if you're just arriving on the channel, subscribe now so you don't miss any news. Here, you'll always be up to date with everything. Today's news will surprise even the oldest fans. We're talking about the possible arrival of an elite talent to the Detroit roster. Leave a like. It really helps the channel grow and continue bringing you quality content. Thanks a lot for the like. Now, let's get straight to the point. The Detroit Lions may have made a silent masterstroke that could guarantee the future of the offensive line for years. While the public's eyes were focused on the big choices in the draft, the team went out and bet on a name that went unnoticed by many analysts. But who could become a key player? Leif Fautanu. And the most curious thing? He represents exactly the philosophy that Detroit has been cultivating behind the scenes, the one that was printed on the sweaters worn by the team during the draft. Cross out HWS, that is, cross out height, weight, and speed. In Detroit, they're not looking for perfect measurements, they're looking for real players, and Fautanu could be one of them. Frank Ragnow is, without exaggeration, the best center in the NFL right now. His presence, technique, and leadership on the field make him an offensive pillar. But there's a shadow hanging over his future: injuries, specifically his persistent toe problem. It's no secret that this could bring his retirement forward. And if that happens, whether it's in a year or 3, the Lions need to be prepared. The team has already begun to map out paths, training players at multiple positions, giving opportunities to rookies like Tate Ratledge and Miles Frazier, and of course developing less heralded talents like Kingsley Eguakun. But among all these options, one name is starting to shine brightly: Fautanu. Leif Fautanu went undrafted, which in itself raises some eyebrows, but his trajectory cannot be ignored. He was the starting center for Arizona State in 2023, one of the most exciting teams to watch, especially with RB Cam Scatterbo. But who was helping pave the way for him? Fautanu. He was a solid anchor for that offense, allowing just 8 pressures all season and no sacks. In his college career, he allowed just 2 sacks. That, coupled with an impressive 86 pass blocking grade from Pro Football Focus, puts him among the best in the country at his position. And that's better than several players who were drafted ahead of him. And there's more. Fautanu was not only an all Big 12 selection, but he also won the Polynesian Player of the Year award, an honor that shows the respect he has earned on and off the field. So why wasn't he called up to the combine? The answer is his height. He stands at 6'1", considered short for an offensive lineman. Had he attended the combine, he would have been the shortest interior OL at the event. But the Lions don't care about that. They look at the film, the actual plays, the technique, and the heart of the player. And in all of those invisible metrics, Fautanu delivers. Now, if the physical argument is still needed, he's no slouch. He has 34-inch arms and an impressive 7-foot wingspan. For comparison, Frank Ragnow, the very model of the position, has smaller arms, 34 inches, and a smaller wingspan, 6'4". So, when you think about it, Fautanu isn't exactly small where it counts. He may not stand out on standardized tests, but in the aspects that truly define an offensive lineman, toughness, technique, game intelligence, he's simply a find. And that brings the Lions' current recruiting philosophy full circle. Brad Holmes has made it clear they're not interested in following the traditional playbook. They want players with solid tape, attitude, and hunger. The sweater with the HWS crossed out is the visual manifesto of a team that relies more on the eye than on statistics. Height, weight, and speed are easy to measure. What's harder to find is a player who understands the game, who masters his role, and who can thrive alongside veterans like Ragnow. Leif Fautanu may not have walked through the NFL's front door, but if he continues to show what he did at Arizona State, he could very well be the heir to the throne at the heart of Detroit's offensive line. A quiet, sure bet that is perfectly aligned with everything the Lions stand for today. The Lions enter the 2025 season with a clear goal: to correct the mistakes that led to their painful 2024 collapse. After an impressive 15-2 regular season campaign, Detroit looked like one of the strongest teams in the NFL. But that heroic performance was marred by a critical detail that few can fathom. The Lions had a league-leading 16 players on the injured list. Of those, 13 were on the starting defense, which made the playoffs a real battle. However, the burden of absences was too great, and a loss to the Commanders in the divisional round ended one of the most promising years in the franchise's recent history prematurely. Now, as the calendar turns to 2025, the narrative surrounding the Lions feels unfairly skewed. Most have forgotten how dominant the team was throughout the last regular season. They've forgotten how Jared Goff led an explosive offense, how Amon-Ra St. Brown shone as a rising star, and how Dan Campbell courageously led a team that, despite its shortcomings, never stopped fighting. The problem is that when an unexpected loss happens in the playoffs, the context fades. No one talks about the player's promotion from the practice squad. No one remembers that the defense that collapsed was completely patched up. All that remains in the collective memory is the final score and the frustration of a team that seemed destined for the Super Bowl but fell by the wayside. Now, it's up to Detroit to turn that forgetfulness into fuel and prove once again that they're not ready. The Detroit Lions are looking for a key player to bolster their defense ahead of the 2025 NFL season. Since releasing Zadarius Smith earlier this offseason, the team has yet to find a solid replacement to play alongside star defensive lineman Aiden Hutchinson. While the Lions did draft Boise State's Ahmed Hassanein in the 6th round of the draft, that selection doesn't come with an immediate guarantee of top-level production. And with a clear window of competition open, Detroit can't afford to wait for rookies to develop, which is why Matt Judon's anticipated arrival is drawing attention from fans and analysts alike. According to CBS Sports' Tyler Sullivan, the Lions would be an ideal destination for Judon, a 4-time Pro Bowl edge rusher. Despite drafting Tyleik Williams as a defensive tackle in the 1st round of the draft, the team still lacks an experienced and reliable pass rusher to balance the pressure on the other side of the line. Judon, despite coming off a subpar season, with just 5.5 sacks for the Falcons, his worst record since his rookie year, is still considered a viable and valuable option. He spent much of 2024 recovering from a biceps injury, which may have compromised his performance, but with his health back on track and less attention from opposing defenses, playing alongside Hutchinson, the scenario could change drastically. At 33 years old, Judon is no longer the same explosive athlete he was in past seasons, but his tactical intelligence, reading of the game, and experience could add a lot to a defensive unit looking to take the next step towards the Super Bowl. The Lions, who finished last season as one of the most competitive teams in the NFC, know that small adjustments in key areas can be the difference between a good campaign and a historic season. And the arrival of Judon, even as a short-term reinforcement, fits exactly that type of need. A veteran player who can deliver immediate results. From a financial standpoint, the potential arrival of Matt Judon also makes sense. According to Spotrac, Judon's estimated market value is around $8.4 million for 2 years, or $4.2 million per season. That's significantly more affordable than the $11 million Zadarius Smith was expected to receive before his release. For the Lions, this represents a chance to bolster their defense without compromising the salary cap, while maintaining flexibility for future moves during the season. A 1-year deal, in fact, could be even more attractive for both parties. Judon could show that he still has gas in the tank, and the Lions would have time to develop a long-term replacement. In a market where options are increasingly scarce, Detroit needs to act objectively. The Lions' defense has proven to be one of the pillars of the franchise's recent success, but it relies on balance and depth to maintain consistency throughout the schedule. Bringing in Judon may not be a spectacular move or one with high expectations, but it's exactly the kind of strategic decision that separates teams that just make the playoffs from those that fight all the way. And with the NFC more open than ever, every piece on the board could be the difference that was missing. And now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Matt Judon would be a good signing for the Lions? Even with his age and coming off an injury, can he still deliver enough to be the ideal partner for Aiden Hutchinson? In my opinion, given his projected value and the experience he brings, it would be a smart bet, especially considering that the market is tight and the roster needs more weight at that position. But what about you, fam? What would you do if you were in the board's shoes? Comment below. I read everything and I really want to know your opinion. And if you enjoy this type of content about the Lions behind the scenes and moves, leave a like, because it really helps the channel to grow and continue bringing you these complete analyses. See you soon.